This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Hello to everybody. Welcome to another edition of Libertas. This is Tonino Abana. Congresswoman Mitos Magsaysay and Pompi Lavinia are not available tonight, so I am substituting for them. Our topic tonight has to do with the reforms of President Duterte, assessing the reforms of President Duterte. And here to help me discuss the issues for tonight is a professor from the UST Political Science Department. He's a veteran political analyst. I'd like to welcome Professor Edmond Tayao.
Thank you, Tonino, for having me again here.
How are you today?
A lot of challenges, I have to say, both in, of course, my work is political.
Correct.
So the challenges in the political realm is reflected in the work that I do. So I have to say it's full of adventures, let me just put it that way.
We have quite a unique president right now. How would you describe him compared to the previous presidents that we've had?
Well, if the comparison is the previous president, no, I'd prefer this president a lot better compared to the previous ones.
In what respect?
Well, kasi what you see is what you get, as far as this president is concerned. He says how he feels exactly, and he pursues what he feels exactly. Yung dati kasi, mas marami yung salita. You know, he speaks well. I'm referring to the previous president. But how it's reflected in the work and the achievement of the government is an entirely different matter. So, sa madalit sabi, magaling lang sa salita, no? This one, he's not, obviously, he's not a communicator, no? And quite very emotional, no? But in the past year in office, I mean, there are so many notable changes that you don't expect. And at best, perhaps you expect it very minimal. Like yung proseso sa gobyerno na nabawasan yung pila, mas napabilis, no? Yung mga ganon, maliit na bagay, but it resonates. Just recently, yung mga toilets sa airport, no, has improved almost overnight. And so many others, no? In other words, there are so many changes that have really taken place, rather minor ones, but very notable changes, I have to say.
Let's discuss the most important change. The biggest political reform that the president mentioned and promised is really the changing of the Constitution.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot get bigger than that.
Exactly.
And where is the government in that respect with regards to that effort?
That's another reason why I'm inclined to prefer this president compared to the previous one. Yung dati, even if it's quite obvious that the problem is with the system, no? And I'm referring to the mechanism that is government itself. And there are so many scholarly studies undertaken in this regard, no? Regardless of how much amount of good policies and programs we adopt from other countries, like even yung 4Ps or CCT dati, no? hindi nagwo-work yan dito sa atin precisely because the mechanism, the tool that is used to implement the supposedly very successful meaningful
Which
programs.
is that, the LGUs or
Lahat
the
from
DPWH?
national,
From
lahat
national?
national to pati lahat yung ang tawag dito administrative code mo kailangan mong baguhin, yung political system kailangan mong baguhin. So isa lang yung federalism dito. But you know, the reason why I like this president more than the previous is at the outset sinabi niya kaagad, kailangan natin baguhin yung sistema. Hindi yung kultura, hindi yung behavior ang problema. Kasi we like shooting ourselves on the foot no? Na hindi tayo marunong, wala tayong disiplina, hindi tayo marunong sumunod sa rules and regulations.
Siguro, Ed, magandang discuss natin kung ano ba talaga yung constitutional change na pinopropose ng administrasyon. So you mentioned federalism.
Yeah.
Are there other things like the parliamentary form of government? Ano ba talaga yung tinutulak nila?
Nung umpisa, talagang federalism.
Okay.
No? At talaga namang federalism hanggang ngayon.
Paki-explain lang yung federalism sa mga televiewers natin so that they can understand ano ba yung advantage ng federalism compared dun sa ating current system ngayon?
Yung federalism talagang designed yan unang-una to recognize the unique identities of different communities. No? Yan ang talagang
Will the regions
original.
form the federal governments? Or?
Yes, not necessarily the existing regions.
Right.
No? If we put it in the current context of local government units, it's an opportunity to amalgamate. Alam mo, Tonino, it's good that you mentioned it in terms of current regional governments. No? I always compare the Philippines with our nearest neighbor, Indonesia, so much that our local government structure is similar to Indonesia. Yung probinsya, yun yung next level. No? Did you know that the Philippines is only 15.7% of the total land area of Indonesia?
Yes.
And
Indonesia is a huge country.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Indonesia only has 34 provinces. In fact, they started only with 29. Nagdagdag sila ng 6, just not very recently, but quite recently. And we were telling them, at least as far as some other experts who are frequently invited in the region, huwag nyo gayahin yung Pilipinas. Isipin mo, ang liit-liit natin, we have 81 provinces.
Yeah.
No? And we started with more than 60 sometime 30 years back. So, point is, yung land area constitutes what is called in local governance as capacity. Kaya yung absorptive capacity ng local governments, ang hina. Kasi tax base pa lang, ang konti. Kasi maliit yung area mo, ang liit ng tax base mo, kasi kukonti yung pwede mong i-host na households and economic activity and so on and so forth. Traffic management, waste management, lahat apektado yan kasi nga maliit. So, federalism is an opportunity to amalgamate this rather fragmented local government unit of ours. No? Pero yun na nga, hindi dapat limitado. Sumalit sabi, if we go back to the basic concept of what federalism is, it defines the relationship between the central and the local government. No? At least that's essentially the concept that applies to us.
But the federal system will still have all of those small provinces, those all small municipalities. So how will it be different from having a central government?
Hindi mo kasi mababago overnight. So the idea in let me first say that I'm part of a huge network. It's called the Political Reform Exponents of the Philippines, and we convened ourselves sometime June last year and officially met starting July last year. And we agreed not necessarily to just push federalism for federalism's sake, but we agreed to look at it in terms of issues that we currently face. No? So sa madalit sabi, we thought the approach to real systemic reform is problem-driven. No? And then we were asked by the administration party, PDP Laban, and we're so happy to work with them. And finally, we are able to have a draft, and it's now pending in both houses of Congress. No? So, yung mga i-discuss ko dito na mga mekanismo, yung nandun sa draft na yun. Ano? So, anyway, ang proposal, kasi yung federalism, yung relasyon ng national at local, hindi lang yun yung kailangan mong baguhin. Kailangan mo ding baguhin yung political system na tinatawag. No? Kasi halimbawa, ang Amerika, ang favorite example natin ng federal form of
Correct.
government, no? Of course, from the very start, the state governments were originally more powerful than the federal because they're the classical type of federalism. Pero dahil presidential system, ang presidential system kasi talagang ang focus mo sa presidente, yung isang tao, isang executive. And because the one that makes real significant decisions, isang tao lang, ang tendency is to centralize. So starting 1930s with the Depression, no, Franklin Delano Roosevelt effectively took over so many of the original powers of the state government. Hindi na nabalik yun. Fast forward 1990s, panahon ni President Ronald Reagan, he wanted to give these powers back to the state governments. Pero nabuo na kasi yung infrastructure, the bureaucracy that essentially was formed as a result of the federal government taking back the powers of the state government. So, nawala yun. So, kaya kailangan mong baguhin yung current presidential system to make sure that the autonomy that will be afforded in a federal government will remain, no, and will not be diluted.
Okay, so basically, one of the rationale behind the federal system is because we want development to go to the different
That's right.
provinces,
That's right.
which is really not happening right now.
That's right.
Because it's lopsided, and Manila decides where
That's
the
right.
money goes.
That's right.
So a federal form of government will mean that the budget will be spread among the federal governments.
Not only that the budget will be spread among the regional governments, but that essentially they can really decide on their own what to do with their own money, no? Ngayon kasi kahit na sabi nga nila, no, may decentralization na tayo since 1991. Kasi dahil nga unitary form, even without amending or revising the decentralization law, no, 1991 pa yan, every 5 years supposedly may review, may change, walang change. Pero every administration change, nababawasan yung supposed autonomy already given to local government units. Did you know that there are at least 17 plans required by the various national government agencies for every LGU before they can start their work? So in other words, yung autonomy na tinatawag, hindi totoong autonomy. So yun yung gagamutin ng federalism. Pag may binabakang poder from national to the sub-national, which is the regional governments, and to the local governments, hindi na pwedeng basta-basta i-siphon ulit o i-dilute ng national government yung powers na binigay na sa kanila.
Okay, I think we'll be going for a break, but before we go for a break, I'd like to ask you a question and you can answer. Wouldn't the government be bigger if we go with a federal form of government? Because in the past, we just have a central government that we have to bayaran na sweldo, budget, and so on. And now we have all of these federal governments that will actually duplicate the function of the national government. So this is Tonino Habana. I just asked a question. Please don't go away. Our expert, Professor Taya, will answer right after the break. Don't go away.